I'll introduce myself to start. I'm Tom Seymour. Everybody here knows me except for Corey. Corey, I haven't met you before, I don't think.
Nice to meet you.
I have worked in packaging and food for the past about 10 years of my life. I got my start over at Mako PKG, selling flexible packaging and food co-packing. And then about a year and a half ago, moved over to Ledestri Foods and have been managing some key accounts here, working on the co-pack sales side. I'm currently on the board for the New York State Food Processors, as well as a bunch of other groups. I like to spend my time, the little bit of spare time that I have volunteering, whether it be for professional organizations, volunteer in a leadership role at my church. I am a Cub master. So wherever there's a need for a volunteer, I tend to step in. And aside from that, I love to get out, enjoy the outdoors, golf, fish, all your standard stuff. So
where do you golf, Tom?
Wherever's cheapest, really. I like the public courses, the parks. So Durand, Eastman, Churchville, right down the street from my house is Lakeshore Country Club, which across the street is Shore Acres. So both my kids, they're 7 and 9. My son's been golfing since he was 4. And they love going to Shore Acres because it's a par 3. And we can go out there and there's usually not a lot of people, not a lot of pressure. And so they can get some practice. My daughter started this year. I bought her clubs at 7. And she's a lefty, so it's really hard for me to teach her because everything's opposite. And but I'm trying. She's not as coordinated as my son. He kind of took to it a little bit easier, but I don't want to discourage her because I think it's a very strong skill to have for a young lady as she grows up and gets into the professional setting. So that's me in a nutshell. So why don't we pass it over to Norm, just because you're next on my screen on the tiles.
Okay, well, Norm Brown. I guess I'm the elder statesman of this organization. I first came into New York State back in 1992. Prior to that, I was over 10 years in the Chicago area. Prior to that, a little over 3 years down in the Big Easy. Prior to that in Cincinnati, Ohio. And I go all the way back to my original roots, which is in Western Pennsylvania. I started out with a company called Brockway Glass. And at that time, they were the second largest world glass manufacturer. And through their tenure, that took me from Brockway, PA to Cincinnati, Ohio to New Orleans to Chicago. And during the Chicago tenure is when Owens, Illinois, the largest world glass manufacturer, ended up buying out Brockway Glass. And I stayed on with that organization and then was transferred here to Rochester back in 1992. And that was the year that I first got involved with the New York State Food Processors Association as well. And I stayed with Owens Glass for about another 3 to 4 years. They went through a reorg and a downsizing. So I exited from there. And then I was fortunate enough not to leave the area, but was picked up by the world's largest metal packaging company called Crown Cork and Sill. They were headquartered out of Philadelphia. And I ended up with their metal closure division. So I went from selling the glass containers to the metal lids that went on the glass jars. So for me, it was a very easy transition from one organization to the other. And then about a little over 3+ years ago, elected to take an out package and retired under the Crown Cork and Sill umbrella, downsized my house. I live currently here in the village of Fairport, right on Main Street, across from the Fairport Brewing Company. But I decided after we went through the quantum leap of downsizing our home and moving into this idyllic apartment building right on Main Street, I wasn't quite ready to retire. And so then I picked up a little side job with really one of my own former direct customers. It's a small packaging distributing company based out of Waterford, New York, just north of Albany, called Birch Bottle and Packaging. So that kind of kept my activities, in the packaging area. Obviously, I don't travel like I used to. When I was with the major corporations, I traveled all across the country. I called on all the major corporations, from Smuckers to Welch's to Kraft Heinz, you name it, Quaker Oats. They were all my primary direct customers. But now I'm sort of in a nice position because I kind of go back to my original roots in selling when I was with Brockway Glass. Brockway at the time was machined to work with a lot of second and third tier customers. So it's nice to kind of be back in a position where I'm assisting smaller based companies, even though I call on Ledestrian, Private Label Foods, and Giovanni Foods. There are a number of smaller companies now that I get to interface with and work with them directly to help them with some of their packaging needs. And that becomes a lot more, for me, very rewarding, because again, not to downsize, the big corporations that I called on, but a lot of it, became less about the relationship and more about the bottom line. Now I'm sort of back, working with a lot of entrepreneurial companies. Back to the food processors group, I continued on with them. I was elected the first president of the board a number of years ago as a non-food processor. For those of you who don't know the history of the organization, which dates back to the 1800s, there were always two basically groups. There was the processors and the affiliates that sort of sold to the processors. And there were separate boards and separate, functions. But obviously over the years, with consolidation and a lot of companies exiting the area, it became quite apparent that in order for us to survive and continue on as an organization, we had to rethink our plan. So we eliminated the whole structure of having two separate boards, combined everything together under one board, direction. And even since then, at that time, we still had a full-time admin person, a part-time admin person. That all went by the wayside. So again, we tried to keep reinventing ourselves. We used the Rochester Greater Chamber of Commerce for a few years in the interim period until we could collectively decide as a board what our direction was going to be. And then obviously about a year plus ago, we made the quantum leap of taking on more active board membership, redoing our website, and trying to make ourselves a lot more relevant in today's world. The thing that I like about the association over all these years, there was never a me versus them. It was always a collective group of people wanting to build upon food processing and here in New York State, and to be able to network, to help one another, grow the base over those many years that the organization has remained intact. So that's sort of the background on me personally. As you can see on the screen, I now have a full beard. I do play Santa Claus every year. Unfortunately, this year it'll have to be on a virtual basis, but that's something I thoroughly enjoy too, particularly as we enter the Christmas season. Last year, I was selected to be the official Santa Claus at the South Wedge Christmas celebration. And unfortunately, a lot of those celebrations now are on a hiatus until we get through COVID and get ourselves safe again. But it's something that I thoroughly enjoy as well. And it brings a lot of joy to me. As I mentioned earlier in the conversation, my dad was Santa Claus all those years. I inherited from him. And every time I put on the Santa suits, I feel my dad channeling through me. So it's been quite a pleasure to be able to carry on the family legacy. I did recently join last year. There's actually a Scottish clan Claus society. I've joined them. I'm now a lifelong member, but I haven't done a lot with it. ever since COVID hit, but I hope to get actually involved with them. But they're actually their own clan. They have their own tarpon kellers. They have their own organization. They go to all the Scottish festivals throughout the year. So hopefully when we get through the pandemic, I can expand my Santa duties to with that organization as well.
Nice. Thanks, Norm. So the next tile on the screen is Diana and Corey, and it looks like Chris Marsh is joining from Jamestown. So Diana and Corey, do you want to introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Go ahead, Corey.
So my name is Corey Marshall. We both work at Heritage Packaging. This is my first gig out of school. So we're in the flexible packaging industry. Currently, we do a lot of aerospace and defense work. We do electronic bags or bag storage, but we're trying to get into the SQF area. So I guess we're just trying to increase our knowledge base on food packaging and try to get as much information as we can, because this is a new area for us and for our company. So we're just trying to increase our knowledge base and figure some stuff out.
I'm Diana. I met Tom through IOPP probably, I don't know, what, like 10 years ago now?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while. Dabbled in that. I'm also a member of the Rock City Coalition. I'm a member at large. Also get involved through RIT, through the Dean's Advisory Council and the Women's Council. So I try to stay pretty close to the packaging science community and the students that are popping out of there. I started off, I have my bachelor's from RIT in packaging science, got my master's, pursuing my doctorate, moved on to L3 Harris, worked there for about 8 years, and then came over here. And now I'm a engineering manager, and Corey works for me. And here we are trying to connect more. It's so hard with COVID to find people and socialize the way we used to. So anything like this certainly helps. So thanks for setting it up, Tom.
Yeah, sure. Mike, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Michael from WebSurge Digital Marketing. We're partners with the Associated New York State Food Processors, helping to try to lift the association by redoing the website, trying to instill some more engagement from our current members, as well as get a bunch of new members by providing valuable technology on the website, whether that's the cornucopia tool that Tom really was the brainchild of, and we just kind of executed. The job posting platform, and we also conduct digital marketing services, and most of our clients are in packaging, engineering, manufacturing companies. The large majority of what we do is B2B work, so it's exciting to be able to help out Tom and the association in a very different capacity, where we're really being somebody to lean on, a digital support, technology support, versus actively acquiring new clients for our clients. So it's been a great relationship so far. And as Norm and Tom mentioned, this is really kind of getting to year one, and we're just starting to get past the tip of the iceberg, or get beneath the tip of the iceberg. And we're going to start doing a lot more interesting things going on, especially coming up in the new year.
Nice, thanks, Mike. It looks like Tina has joined us. Tina, we're just going around the horn, introducing ourselves. Do you want to tell us a little bit about who you are, where you work, and what your interests are?
She might be on mute.
Yeah, she is. And I also saw Chris Marsh drop in and drop out. I'm not sure if Tina works with Chris and they're both calling from Jamestown, or. Tina, your phone is on mute, or your computer's on mute. All right, well, we'll keep an eye out. If we hear any more folks join, we'll certainly give them a chance to introduce themselves. And Tina, I just had a technical difficulty just yesterday. I was on a Skype call, and I think I gave a dissertation on the issue that we were having, and then realized that I was having audio issues and no one could hear what I said. So it is what it is. That's part of the new world. So I guess before we get into talking about some of the challenges that we all see in food packaging in an e-commerce driven world, we've had more and more focus. We've all known e-com is a driving force and growing. And, if you talk to conventional grocery and brick and mortar, while it is a large dollar value e-commerce, it was and still represents a small percentage of the overall buying habits of consumers. I have not seen the latest Mintel data to refresh me as to what that percentage looks like in a pandemic state or what the projections are post-pandemic, because I believe that there's a lot more purchasing going on online today than ever before. And so we're challenged as food manufacturers, food processors, and packaging manufacturers to navigate these waters and these challenges that we can have with regard to getting food and food products from our buildings through to those distribution centers and eventually out into people's homes. Just a couple of reminders before we really dig into that topic. Because I have some folks here, especially specifically Diana and Corey, mark your calendars, or I guess not mark your calendars because I don't have a date to give you, but take note that we do have an event coming up in January. It's going to be a panel discussion with the founders from Hemp Hunter Labs. Hemp Hunter Labs is a organization that's working on hemp and cannabis research and development and R&D and product development stuff in that space. And they're at the down in Geneva at the technology farm. Sorry, it's not my company, so it's hard for me to sell. I wish Alan was on, he'd do a much better job. But really interesting group of folks. Hunter, the owner of the company, is a Cornell grad, and he's doing some really cool stuff in the R&D space for hemp and cannabis. And as we all know, that's an ever-growing, changing field. I think that there was just some legislation passed. So we know about the hemp farm bill that was passed back last December. I think that there was a piece of legislation that just passed recently on CBD, allowing it to be used as a food ingredient. So that kind of impacts and changes our lives as food processors and even as packaging specialists, understanding the dynamic of adding a non-psychoactive component like CBD into a food. Probably less of a concern from protecting it, more of a concern of the graphics and the marketing piece that comes around that new food ingredient. And then someday, if the state ever goes that way, the psychoactive component for adult use and how that could impact all of our jobs in food processing and packaging. So that will be a really interesting one. That's in January. We are working right now on trying to get a virtual tour of the Genesee Brewery. Most of us have been through Genesee Brewery, but it would be cool to do a virtual tour of it. And we're also talking about in the spring, depending on where we're at with COVID, it may be virtual, it may be in person, but the New York State food processors are tied tightly to the commissary, the incubator in Sibley, the Sibley building. That opened this past week. It's a really cool space. There's a lot of small food companies that are going to be using that space as their home base. They're all looking for support in food packaging, food processing. And so we're likely going to tour that space. There's also a really nice, if we go in person, the Mercantile is this beautiful restaurant, food court type of environment that they've created There's a coffee bar and an alcohol bar, and then they have 3 or 4 different themed restaurants, and it's intended to be a place for people to meet and speak. So if we get there and we get there in person, maybe we can even check out that space. And we're also talking about an event in the spring with the Cornell Pilot Lab. So down in Geneva, they're actually using their food processing pilot plant to train FDA inspectors and New York State Department of Agriculture inspectors. They're one of maybe 3 sites in the country that's approved to do this training with FDA. And they just got this very recently, so it's actually a very big deal. So Bruno Xavier, who's a great contact and great resource in the food science world, he's likely going to be leading a tour through that facility. And I'd strongly suggest if we get there in person that everybody here try to make it. But those are the big upcoming events. Before we jump into conversation about food packaging and e-commerce, Tina, have you had a chance to resolve your technical difficulties? Can you come off mute and tell us a little bit about yourself? Or maybe it's not Tina. Maybe that's a bad name that's up there. Maybe it could be Ed or Matt or Kim, or I know it's not Frank or John or Chris. If you heard your name and you're on the call, you might be up on our screen as Tina. And in that case, if you'd unmute and just tell us a little bit about who you are and where you're from. Oh, there we go. She just put in a message. Hi, all. I'm sorry I don't have a camera or microphone. Okay, that's cool. Well, we're glad that you're here with us today, listening on. If you want to put a little something up in the chat as to what company you're with, maybe I know a little bit about your company and I can share with the other folks on the phone. And if I don't, no big deal. Oh, okay. A small trucking company from Waterport, New York, and you haul food products. Cool. What's the trucking company? Just to know. Elder. Oh, Elder Trucking. Okay. Yeah. You guys have been members of the association for quite a while. Certainly appreciate your support in continuing on with us. Tina, what you don't know, or maybe you do, maybe you've caught the memo, but we're very proud today, the New York State Food Processors. We've been really putting in a lot of effort and a lot of work and money to back the words that we're saying here, to drive a stronger value proposition. We're doing that with a redesigned website. We've used WebSurge as a partner. Can't say enough good things about WebSurge. If you guys are looking for help with anything digital media related, not just website, but anything digital media related, these guys are wizards. Diana and Corey, I'll tell you, WebSurge helped me when I was at Mako as a small sales department, being a sales department of 1. They helped me automate and find sales leads for flexible packaging through search engine optimization. And they have a really neat tool. I think at the time it was HubSpot. I don't know if that's the same tool they use today, but they're wizards when it comes to back end and being able to go out and market your company and hunt for leads, qualified leads. And I got to give a lot of my success when I was at Mako over to WebSurge because they really gave me some cool tools to use. So if anybody's in need of that kind of stuff, that's where WebSurge can help. So yeah, we've redone the website. We have the cornucopia listing. So if you're a member, Tina, I can't remember if you've paid your dues, but if you have, I think you have, you would have gotten an email prompt, and we're asking that you go on and set up your cornucopia page. That's the next tool that we've created, and really it's an interactive, trackable through Google Analytics tool for you to use to just get your name out there in another place and it's a database of resources. So what we realized is all of the stuff, all of the knowledge that we have as food processors and packaging companies, it's all tribal. And so how do we get all that into a place where it can be digital and it can be shared? and it's through Cornucopia. And as that tool grows, we're going to see not only food processors and packaging companies, we're going to see tertiary suppliers like banks and insurance companies, which we certainly have seen join on. And that's going to grow and grow and grow. And we're going to have this incredible network of people local to New York State that revolve around food processing and packaging that are easy to reach out to. And when we do reach out to each other, we're able to track it and show you, hey, look, this is the amount of traffic that came through to your website or contacted you about your products through the New York State food processors. So really just trying to find a way to give you some justification. I know $400 a year isn't much for an organization, depending on the size of your organization, but just trying to make sure that at the end of the year, we're justifying to you why you're paying those dues. And then the last piece of the puzzle is we're working hard to make sure that we're planning good quality events. And we had the fireside chat with Paulie Guglielmo that was really well attended and well received. We did a chat with Sam Randall from Renegade Coffee Bar, another one that was well attended and well received. And here we are pioneering a happy hour that unfortunately we didn't get the group that we thought we were going to, but that's okay. We still have a good group of people here to chat with. So with that, I don't think there's a need to break out into the smaller breakout rooms because there's 5 of us. So I think I just want to open up the floor with the question, and really, we can take our business hats off or we can keep them on. What I'm thinking is a good kind of icebreaker to get into the conversation about packaging challenges and food packaging challenges with e-commerce is what's the last food item that you ordered to your house, and did it show up intact? If it didn't, what were some of the, and when I say intact, I mean in good condition, not just, hey, did the product technically make it without the jar breaking or the pouch popping, but did it reach you looking as it should have on the store shelf? So I'm going to go around the horn. If you don't have a food item that you've recently received, that's fine. But I'm going to go back around the horn and see what the last food item that you ordered online and received your home, and hear what condition you received it in. Norm, what do you got?
Well, this was a personal situation. During our days of safe pandemic traveling, me and my wife's a breast cancer survivor, so obviously we have to be very, very careful about any exposure. But on the nice days during the summer months, we would take a ride into the Finger Lakes area. And one of our favorite stops, she did not go in, I did, is a nice bulk store just south of Penn Yan called Oak Hill Bulk Store. And they've expanded over the years. And so I bought one day a package of a cobbler mix. And we tried it out for the first time. It was great. The next time we went back, I could not find it anywhere. Fortunately, I saved the package and I went online and I Googled the manufacturer, got their website. They did explain that they were out of stock, but they should be more than in stock. So I went ahead and ordered a whole case, directly from them. And within about a week from the time I logged on, this nice case, of about 24 packets of this cobbler mix showed up at our doorstep. So for me personally, it worked out real fine. We weren't able to, didn't have to be without it. And then of course I shared some of it with some of our friends as well. But it was just one example of, kind of delving into the, internet world of searching for products that, we could no longer find, directly on the shelf. And from that aspect, it turned out, pretty nice as far as being able to source it that way.
Nice, good. That's great. Good to hear that it made it to you and made it in shape and you're able to find it. So we just had Alan Davis join. What we're gonna do is we're gonna keep the conversation going, and then when it gets to Alan, he can share. Alan, what I've asked everyone to share is what is the last food item that you purchased online and had shipped to your house, and what condition was it received in? To kind of break the ice on the topic of e-commerce and food packaging and food products. And then Alan, when it's your turn, you can just say a little bit. I've already given the group a little bit of information about the January panel that we're going to be having with your founders. But we'll just, if you want to just say who you are and a little bit about yourself when it comes to your turn in the discussion. So I'm going to go to Mike next. Mike, what was your last food item and what condition did it show?
Yeah, actually, I'm a big fan of the brand Kodiak Cakes. They make a whole bunch of different stuff, and especially the oatmeal. At Wegmans, they would only sell the little like 1-serving cups, and I want it every morning for breakfast. So I have a subscription for that, and every 4 weeks or so, they deliver me a new set of boxes. Never had any issues with the quality, or it is a little bit easier. They're not pouches. It's 6 rectangles that fit very nicely into a box, very snug. But I am working towards fully automating my grocery list,
Nice.
where I'm only going out to get fresh produce and fruit. But any kind of staple packaged items like that would ideally come automated and not have to, I could spend more time golfing on Sundays and not as much time at the grocery store.
Nice, that's good. So Tina, while we go to Diana and Corey, if you want to type into the chat what your last food item was and whether it came in good condition, made it to you as it was supposed to be sold on the shelf, and then we can read that. I saw that Matt Warburl had joined and dropped. So when he joins back, same thing as Alan, when we get to his turn to tell us the answer to our question, we'll let him say a little bit about who he is and what he does. So I'm going to move over to Corey and Diana. What's the last food product you ordered online and what condition did it show up to you in?
So I ordered from the Good Food Collective, and it came in a corrugated box, and it was all put together with no primary packaging whatsoever. And it was in good shape. It just, was probably handled with more love than most things are. So that's the last thing I received. Have you ordered food to your house?
No, I don't eat out much, but the last thing I ordered to my house food-wise was a piece of pizza. But
did it arrive intact?
It arrived intact. It was a little cold, but it was still good. Still eat it.
Nice. So I'll tell you, my wife's a cake baker, and she ordered food coloring from Amazon, which is not something that you want coming to your house in bad shape. The induction seal popped on it. So 2 things, you can't use an ingredient if it's been breached because you don't know if it's been tampered with. And then number 2, blue food coloring. It was a mess when we opened the package. So, that's a tough one to get. So I saw where that induction seal failed, and my wife said, "Oh, how is this possible? How did they do this?" And then I tried to explain to her how an induction seal can fail, and she was like, "All right, save your packaging nonsense. I'm getting my refund." So, Alan, what is your last food purchase? How did it arrive to you? And tell us a little bit about Hemp Hunter Labs. You're on mute, by the way.
Of course. So this is the last food item that came into our house: dehydrated potato slices.
Wow.
Yeah, not something that you pick up every day.
Yeah.
It's good for 25 years. Best by 2 October of 2045.
Wow. Are you on the bandwagon with Frank? Last time we were at Frank's office for Mythical Hummus, he was trying to feed us shelf-stable carrots.
Oh God. Awful.
Like wet shelf-stable carrots, guys, not dried or dehydrated, like fresh shelf-stable carrots. And I wouldn't feed them to my worst enemy.
Exactly.
What do you do with those dried potato pieces?
Well, when there's no food left, then you just add water to it, and then you'll have potatoes.
Oh, cool. And it showed up intact in how you would expect it to look.
Yeah, it's perfect, actually.
Nice. Nice. I see quite a mix. So, and in my time with Mako, when I was doing flexible packaging, I'm sure Diana and Corey can also share, and this is part of the engineering piece when you're designing flexible pouches. Those flexible pouches are going to likely, with today's e-commerce, going to go through a wide variety of pressure stress, right? Especially if they're going air freight over the Rockies. And, I can't tell you how many times you've had folks come and say, hey, we're having this issue with the seals bursting, bursting and zippering along the seal. So really taking into account all the potential challenges that the package might see. Today at Ledestri, glass jars, obviously, and we're not shipping to home, but you've seen Amazon put some restrictions around glass jars, and you can imagine that they're not fun or easy to ship. And so, here at Ledestri, we do a PET jar for some of the products that we run. You still have most of everything in glass for pasta sauce, but you can imagine that it takes special considerations to ship something like pasta sauce in a glass jar e-commerce. So it looks like Matt dropped back off. So what are some of the things that you've noticed or challenges that you've been posed when it comes to packaging and designing for e-commerce? Has anybody had any experiences that they could share? Oh, and I forgot to give Alan a chance to say a little bit about his company. So Alan, you want to say a little bit about
Sure.
Hemp Hunter?
Sure, I'll hop in real quick. Pleasure to meet everybody that I don't already know also. So I'm Alan Davis. I am part of a startup. I'm a co-founder of a company called Hemp Hunter Labs. We're located in the tech farm at Geneva on Cornell's campus. We are primarily, we don't do retail, so we don't do tinctures. We don't grow and we don't extract. We're in the middle in a very unique space. So we're formulators. So we basically take extracted CBD primarily right now from the hemp plant, and then we do some magic to it, mix it with some other ingredients that then make it ready for co-packers and brands to use in bulk production. So we're a bulk ingredient dietary supplement supplier in the botanical and CBX, we'll call it, industry, since there's many cannabinoids. And yeah, so we're getting up and running, and we should be selling stuff somewhere around February, March.
Any special considerations that you've had to make in the packaging? So you're not looking at an e-commerce situation, but even when you're shipping that bulk ingredient from your place to the potential customer using it, are there any considerations that you have to take into place? Like, does the ingredient that you're making require a vapor barrier? Is it moisture sensitive? Is it sensitive to oxygen or light or, anything like that?
Yep. So we have two primary formats. One will be a emulsion, a liquid emulsion, and the other format will be a dry powder. So we are working through the packaging, construct right now. We have an advisor that that's what his job's been for the last 20 years, is packaging and packaging design. Primarily for the liquids, they'll be probably like plastic pails. So pretty simple. They are light sensitive. They are oxygen sensitive. So we're looking at a variety of different techniques in both formats to include some sort of either vacuum or nitrogen flush.
Nice. So Norm, all the years you spent in glass, I'd imagine that you came across a few challenges when it comes to, or have heard of some horror stories when it comes to glass. We've all seen clean up on aisle 7, right? Where someone's shopping and knocks that glass jar onto the ground. You got any examples that you've seen over the years in in glass bottles and challenges getting product to shelf or shelf to home or anything like that?
Nothing specific. I mean, I think over the years, people hopefully have understand that, glass still is a primary, packaging material out there, particularly, with food, stability, shelf stable packaging. There's the, quality around it as far as, maintaining freshness and not absorbing any type of off flavoring from other alternative type packaging. And I think the glass companies over the years have tried to address in the manufacturing process ways to form the glass much better than they used to in terms of the overall glass distribution. Even though they have taken weight out of the glass itself, they've been able to do it in such a way to enhance the integrity of the packaging. Of course, it's the first true test is obviously when they go to a factory such as yours at Ledestri, to make it through all the rigors of, unloading it, putting it through the processing, the hot filling, the cooling down, type parameters that it has to, go through in order to, make it out the door. One of the unique challenges that I saw over the number of years, of course, when I first started my career many, many years ago, everything was in a full reshipper cart. So there was a lot of protection. Obviously, you had dividers in there, you had thick, cardboard. But as the industry, progressed, they were looking for, and particularly it was driven from the retail side of the marketplace. They didn't want to deal with all this external packaging by the time I went to a Wegmans or a Tops or a, Sam's store or whatever. So that's, came about the idea of putting everything now in a tray. And of course, the key around that process was making sure that you had a tight configuration of 12 jars, 8 jars, making sure that it was shrink wrapped properly so that it would keep it, as in the integrity of a solid unit. And of course, then a lot of studies as to how many of those trays you could put on a pallet so that there wasn't external damage moving it from point A to point B. So I think that the industry itself has gotten a lot more intuitive ways of trying to keep that integrity going. But as you can see from the store shelf, there still is many, many products that are still utilizing the glass, packaging material.
Yeah, and that's kind of an interesting point. As we were talking about it, I was thinking it sounds like shipping one individual item is a lot more challenging than shipping several dozen, because every product I see on the shelf has been shipped from somewhere en masse with a whole bunch of other products. But if I'm ordering one product online and have some concerns about if it's going to make it to me without the food coloring bursting or something. So for Tom's example, to ship however many thousand package of food coloring packages to Wegmans maybe wasn't a problem, but to ship you just one, something went wrong. So I wonder if there's any kind of upcoming challenge here in the next years as more people do, if more people do look to order their foodstuffs online. Is there any different type of thinking if I'm shipping this as just one individual item versus if I'm shipping this on a pallet and I know how many are going to fit and I maybe scale my packaging around that?
Yeah, I think that's precisely the challenge with that food coloring. It definitely shipped to the distribution hub in a tray or a box, and then they put it in a soft padded mailer. And it's very likely that it was just a simple mechanical failure. I don't think anything major happened. I think it was in a soft padded envelope and it got stacked with some other stuff. And it doesn't take a lot of pressure on the side of a bottle to get an induction seal to pop. And I have a feeling that's what it was. So yeah, looking at those, the handling portion of shipping and what they might have to do to adjust to it. So we only have a couple minutes left, and I wanted to help Diana and Corey out. They had mentioned when they introduced themselves that their company was looking at getting more information about SQF. And I just wanted to share with you that there's a great resource here in upstate New York for GFSI. You know, SQF is obviously one accreditation or one third-party accreditation that you can get to address GFSI. So I mentioned already Cornell and Dr. Bruno Xavier. He is a phenomenal guy. He knows so much about food safety, about FSMA, about Global Food Safety Initiative. He's willing to give his advice and time. When he does have to charge, Cornell is, believe it or not, I know they're not known for having low tuition, but Bruno's time bills out really competitively, much better than private industry folks. He knows everybody's got a great business sense. So I would say if you guys are really interested in learning more about next steps for attaining a GFSI certification, Dr. Bruno Xavier would be a great guy to connect with at the Cornell Food Venture Center.
Great, thanks, Tom.
Yeah. So well, with that, we're at time. We are right here at 5 o'clock. So again, I appreciate everybody coming together. I know it was a small group. Thank you for your patience while we're pioneering this space and trying something very new for the New York State food processors. We're going to continue to have these fireside chats, panels, happy hours. We're open to feedback. Maybe it's time of day, maybe it's day of week. If you have any ideas, you know, the best organizations I belong to understand that a board of directors in a boardroom don't make the best decisions for the members associated with that organization. It's the members. So your active participation, your feedback is going to help grow and build and customize this to what you want. So please feel free. You have the New York State Food Processors email that comes to my inbox. I'm looking at it all the time, so I'm happy to talk more with you about your ideas. Please stay healthy and stay safe. And we look forward to seeing you on the next chat, hopefully in January, with Alan's team from Hemp Hunter Labs.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks. It was good to see you guys. Diana, I got to come see you in person. We'll see how COVID goes, but I'd love to get together with you for a cup of coffee.
That'd be awesome. I got to make that work.
Yeah. All right. Thanks,
All right.
guys. Have a great
Bye.
night.
Thanks, everybody.